Hello everyone, today we're going to go over a demo of the Nomad support in Portainer BE 2.12.2. Alright, so the first step of using Portainer with Nomad is we have to add Nomad as an environment that we can actually manage. So here I am in a fresh instance of Portainer BE edition, and I'm using the wizard, as you can see here by the URL, and then I can just click Add Environment. And we have Nomad available as an option now. So on this next screen, we can see we've already got a URL auto-filled, and it's populated here from the browser, just like any other Edge endpoint that would have. And so we've got some extra information here from Nomad now. You can see that by default, Portainer asks for Nomad Authentication, and we have a little tooltip here saying Nomad Authentication is only required if you have ACL enabled. So if you're using Nomad, you should probably be using ACL because it makes it more secure. And that applies to a Nomad environment that you've started with the ACL enable flag, as I've done in my start command up here. Where is it? Let me find it. Up here. So I've started up with ACL and I've run the bootstrap command to actually get our Nomad token. And so Portainer requires a secret ID right here, which I will copy in. And that will let us use ACL. And then I'm just going to name my environment Nomad, and then I'll click Create, and here is our deploy script, which will actually run the Portainer agent in Nomad. And I'd like Portainer to manage it, so click the copy button and come over to my terminal and run this command. So that will pull down our script and then deploy our agent onto Nomad. And this script references a Nomad job file, so that's how we're able to do that. And I'll just wait a second for this to deploy, and successfully deployed. Let's click Finish and see what the state is. And you can see here that we have our Nomad environment successfully added. So that's one way to add Nomad. As you can see in our agenda, we can also add a Nomad environment through the Environments view. Now, if you've already got environments in Portainer and you want to add Nomad as an extra one, and you don't want to go through the wizard, you can just come to our Environments view that you've probably used before, click the Edge Agent tab, and I'll just call this Nomad 2. And we have Nomad in here now with the same UI from the wizard, and you can input that token and say we have disabled this because our environment doesn't have ACL. Our deploy command will update. So yeah, that's how that works. So what we're going to do now with Nomad is, now that it's in Portainer, well, we have Edge Compute features that work with Edge environments. So I'll go through into Edge Compute under the settings and enable the Edge Compute features. What that does now is it gives you this Edge Compute sidebar. So let's run through this. So Edge Groups is a way for us to manage a bunch of Edge environments at the same time. And so say you've got a whole bunch of Nomad environments that you want to deploy a job to. You would see them listed down here and you just group them together, and when it comes time to deploy the Nomad job, you deploy it to this group and then it will go out to all of the Nomad environments you have. So I'm just going to call this Nomad group. And that's my already paired endpoint environment. So now that I have this group, let's go deploy something to it. You'll come to the Edge Stacks view, create a new stack, and let's call this Nomad stack. I select my group and you can see our UI is updated now with the Nomad tab and the others are disabled. So we're smart about it, and we're doing this based on what's in your group, and it's asking for our HCL file. And I'm just going to go and pull the example one out of the HashiCorp Nomad documentation and deploy that through Portainer. And so now that that's successfully deployed, I'm just going to update my UI to refresh it. So it's pending in progress, and now it's deployed. And we can go into the stacks and see that we've got our example HCL file that we've used here, and say this is a group with multiple environments in it, multiple Nomad environments. You'd see all of them listed here with their status. Alright, so now that that's deployed, how can we look at the Nomad job? And that's where the Nomad dashboard and other features come in. So we'll come back to the home view and look at our Nomad environment. We'll click into it. And so this is going to start up a management session with the Edge environment that you have. That takes a little bit to establish this. And here we can see the information from our environment. And we'll see here, well, we deployed one job. Why is there two listed? And that's because we were pulling the Nomad environment, and inside there is the Portainer agent. So that's why that's there. And as we come to this view, we'll see this is a list of all of the jobs. That's the one we just deployed, and that's our Portainer agent. I've got some details about their status, what namespace inside Nomad they're in, when they're created, and then this job actions. We'll click this. What does this do? Well, that shows you the tasks inside the job. And as you look over to the HCL file, just have a look at it and see if there's one task defined here. And so it's called server. And in Portainer, we can see this, and we can see the task group. We can see the allocation ID. We can see the status when it was started. And we have these actions down here as well. You might be wondering what these are. Well, obviously, when something's deployed to Nomad, you want to know the logs from it or the events from it, and Portainer will support this. We can click on this. This takes us to the events of the Nomad task. This one you can see here, information about the date, the type of event, and the message from the event. And this is pulling from Nomad. You can see when it was received, when it was set up. Using the Docker driver, we can see the Docker image that it was using. And we can see when it was actually started. It's pretty useful. And what about the logs? Well, that's this icon over here. We can see the server is listening on port 5, 6, 7, 8. So we've got the logs from the task, and we have access to standard areas and standard output. And we've got the ability to auto refresh, search through the logs, or download the logs. Also download the file for us. We can copy it to our clipboard, or we can actually select certain lines and then we can copy them, or we can unselect. So yeah, let's go back to our agenda now and see what's next. So I've run through step 2, which is creating the Edge group, and I've deployed to it. I've looked through the running jobs. Now let's look at editing our Edge stack. So we'll come over to the stack view, click into it, and let's change the port that this is exposed on. So why not choose 8080? We'll click update on the stack. You can see that that's successfully updated. Now that's going to go and redeploy the new Edge stack to the Nomad environment. We'll come back over to the job. We'll see here that it's still listed. We can see it's pending, so that's in progress. Nomad's going and updating this. That's how you know the stack's being deployed properly. We can see it's running. Let's see. Yep, the usual events, that's good. And let's look into the logs. Okay, so that's listed now on our reports, so gone and updated that, all good. Now, let's say we want to delete this. Then we can just come back over to the stacks view. We click delete the stack, and then it will go in and remove it from all the Nomad environments in your Nomad group. Easy as that. You can come back over here into the Nomad jobs view. We can see that it's been cleaned up, and then dashboard is updated with our new information. So yeah, that's the basic features of Nomad. So let's go and look at the advanced features, the advanced usage. Well, let's say you have a version controlled HCL file for Nomad that you want to use a Portainer. We support that too. So let's look at our Nomad group and let's point it to a repository. So I've gone and exposed this. Let's see testing public. Here's my example HCL file here. Alright, so using this with Portainer, so we've selected our Nomad group repository URL. I'll bring it back here and paste it in this. And then my manifest path. And so that's my HCL file, and that's just example.hcl. Paste that in. And then I've made this a public repository, so there's no authentication. But if it was a private repository, we could just enter our Git credentials here with our personal access token and would pull it from there as well. So turn it back off and let's deploy. Alright, and then I'll refresh and it's successfully deployed. So let's go back into here, let it refresh. And we can see it's updated with new information. And I have a hunch that this little number means that it's deployed. Let's go and find out. Yep, our docs file is deployed. And it's running. Awesome. And all the usual information, and then we'll go back into the logs, and just to confirm, and this is from Git, it's using the default 5678 port from my public example HCL. There we go. So that covers our advanced usage of Portainer with pulling an HCL from Git. So, thanks for watching.